you?
I'm Batman. I'm Batman. I'm vengeance.
A friend.
Hello and welcome to the Critical Cinema Club. I'm Sean.
I'm Colm.
And today we're going to be talking about Batman and Superman. In recent years, they've had films by themselves. They've had films with other characters from the DC universe. And we really want to get into, do these characters work better with or without the rest of the DC cast? Colm, what is your opinion on that?
Personally, I find it difficult to see Superman in a film with other characters, whether it's with Batman, whether it's with Green Lantern, or anything else like the new Superman film. If you've seen any of the previous videos on the channel before, I wasn't a big fan of the latest Superman film. I felt that David Corenswet was decently cast, thought he looked good as Superman, but why does he need these other characters? He's an incredibly strong character. I think the biggest criticism is that he's too strong, can do too much. But there are ways around that. The first Christopher Reeve film demonstrates that. Batman, again, I prefer the character when it is a lone kind of character working in the shadows. The myth of the character is worth more than the actual man himself. I personally think that both characters work better on their own and they shouldn't have any other characters around them.
This is why Superman works alone.
Let's talk about Superman first.
Yes.
I'm going to disagree with you slightly because, and this has come up many times on the chat, and I know your brother Kieran's a big Superman fan, so apologies, Kieran, if you're watching, but
he's a big something.
He's a bit, yeah, he certainly is. But I think Superman is a bit of a boring character, and it's been done to death. I mean, Superman 1, Superman 2, even Superman 3, actually, they were quite good films. Enjoyed Man of Steel, but I think you've reached the point now of, for me personally, as a fan, yeah, I've seen the Superman thing now. So I think you get to a point with Superman where, well, you can't just keep doing the thing with Lex Luthor all the time. So I feel like you have to start bringing in some of these other characters, which is maybe why they started bringing in the Justice Gang and things like that. I did ultimately think that film was a bit of a mess. I feel like there was too much going on. But, opening it up to characters like Brainiac and Darkseid and things, characters, of these otherworldly properties work quite well with Superman. I think they gel quite well together, more so than Batman, which we'll get to later. I think maybe Superman, it's time to, the Lex Luthor thing's been done. That was maybe the problem with the James Gunn film, which is they want to do these other things, but they've still got the Lex Luthor thing going on. Let's forget Lex for a film and let's open it up for Brainiac's, good villain. Let's have him in there. No, it hasn't. And I know he's quite a big villain in the comics and games and stuff, and maybe it's a studio thing because maybe they're too scared to do a film without Lex in it. But it's time to start opening it up for other characters. And I think the solo Superman, when we say solo, obviously there have to be other characters in there, but Superman and Lex, it's over. It's been done to death. I think Superman needs new blood in those films.
I'll tell you why I disagree with that. Is mainly because why does Superman need Wonder Woman or Batman or Green Lantern when he can do everything that they can do?
When we have a man that bullets literally bounce off him.
It was demonstrated quite well at the end of the Justice League films, both versions, where they're all getting their asses kicked. And the Superman comes in and he just completely saves the day. He could have done it all himself. But going back to the original Christopher Reeve film, the emphasis wasn't on him having an overpowered villain for him to fight and then smashing up buildings and stuff like we had in Man of Steel, which has obviously garnered a lot of criticism. But at the same time, the writing was clever enough to give Superman problems to solve, but it was Lex Luthor's brains against Superman's brawn, and underestimating Superman because he's also got brains. He's got brains and brawn. And it's a case of him, this guy is whizzing around California and he's saving all these people, after the bomb goes off and there's the earthquake, etc., etc. But he still has to use his wit and his cunning to be able to beat Lex Luthor's dastardly plan, if you will. And then it bleeds into the second film with General Zod, and that's where you get the overpowered fighting and stuff. But it wasn't over the top like you got in Man of Steel. And I just feel that Superman's best in his own pocket, his little thing going on over there in his own bubble, if you will. Batman could possibly work with other characters coming in, but I feel that when you start taking that, it's the same with Superman. When you start bleeding these other characters in, it bleeds something away from that main character. The James Gunn film, like I say, it's just really over the top in terms of too much, too many characters, too many things going on, not enough emphasis on the main character. I mean, the film was called Superman, for God's sake, and we're expected to invest in Guy Gardner or Hawk Girl or Mr. Fantastic, and it's like, why call it Superman then? If you're going to do Superman, do him on his own. As far as I know, the Robert Pattinson's Batman isn't part of the DCEU. It's its own thing, and then giving us another Batman, which I guess this is the counter argument is, are we seeing too much of the same character played by different people? We can say the same thing about Spider-Man. How many Batmans have we had in the last few years? How many versions of Superman? Too much.
But, I think this is a good segue into Batman. So, Superman, you've got Lex Luthor. There's only so many different ways you can do that dynamic. And what you've just said about brain versus brawn, this is why I think Batman is a better character. So he's got these different the rogues gallery. So you've got these different villains he faces, and each one of those. You could maybe do 6 or 7 different films with different Batman villains. You could even do lesser villains. Like I always think maybe a good character would be Victor Zsasz, who's a lesser villain. He's like a serial killer, which I think Batman's had troubles with in the past. But there's all these different characters you can pick from, and each one of those is a different Batman movie just because of the villain who's in it. So if you think of like the Dark Knight Rises versus the Matt Reeves Batman with the Riddler in it, they are very different because they are different types of problems, and you can keep doing those films. And what I like about Batman is when we start talking about that 2022 Batman with the Riddler in it, it's very grounded and it works as a nice gritty sort of crime thriller almost, which has got Batman in it, and I like those films like The Dark Knight. What really ruins those films is when someone flies in it and someone's got powers. I think it really ruins it, and I think that might be why you're seeing 2 different types of Batman. So you've got this Batman, a bit like the Dark Knight Batman, which is there is no supernatural elements. I don't think there are any supernatural elements in the 2022 one. It is very, very difficult to reconcile having that type of world where then you've got someone like Superman and Green Lantern. I mean, I think the MCU had that problem a little bit because it was very difficult, jumping from Iron Man into the Avengers. That they had to build that up a little bit. With DC, I've never liked it when they've mixed Batman in. So the Justice League films and Batman versus Superman, I can't take it seriously.
No, I can't.
I really, really struggle, and I almost wish that they would just section Batman off and just not have any of these other elements in there, which is, I think, probably why they're going to have the cake and eat it, and have 2 different Batman at the same time.
I think it's a big mistake because you've got 2 versions of the same character on kind of in cinemas or out there for us to watch at the same time. I know you can say, yeah, but we've also got the Dark Knight only came out that 15 years ago or so, blah blah blah. Nearly 20 years since Dark Knight came out, which is scary. And you can automatically say, well, if it's done differently, you can just separate them. But I don't see how you can, because Batman's origins will always be the same. I know there's different types. There's that version of Batman where he's lost all of his money and stuff, and he's working in a garage and he has to build up from nothing. And that's possibly a good way of doing that in the future, so we don't get the same old that and what we've had before. I can kind of see where you're coming from with Superman because of the the fantastical nature of the character and what he can do, the abilities and superpowers and blah blah blah. And you have to have other superheroes and super villains of the same ilk to be able to be a foil for him. Whereas with Batman, he doesn't. Batman is just a man in a suit. He's somebody who's got a lot of training to blend into the shadows, and like I was saying before, that I feel that Batman works best, and it was the same with the Tim Burton '89 Batman. It was the same with the Dark Knight. It was more so in Batman Begins than it was in the Dark Knight, and it came back a little bit more in the Dark Knight Rises, and then again in the Batman with Robert Pattinson, where the character itself, the symbol of Batman, is what is frightening. It's a mythical character in people's minds. It's what the character stands for, and it's working in the shadows and using fear against his enemies.
I heard the bat got him.
The bat? Oh, man, give me a break, will you? Oh, my God.
But when you put Batman in with other characters like Wonder Woman and Green Lantern and the Iron Man ripoff, whatever it was called, it kind of takes that element away from the character and it becomes a man in a suit, and a man in a suit with no powers. He's just rich, as they even state in the Justice League films.
Well, it's just a joke, isn't it? Yeah.
It is.
And I have no special powers. I'm basically just rich and nuts.
Yeah, I mean, the difficult Justice League films, because that Justice League film, they had to pretty much nerf Superman. So the film had to be about getting Superman back, because this is the problem with Superman a lot. If he's in that film from the get-go, the film's over in 5 minutes because there's nothing he can't do. So the film had to be the struggle of getting him back to himself and all the rest of it. If you're looking at it from, there's two different points of view I'm going to consider now. And you can't have the Justice League without Batman. He is like a founding member. So people like the Trinity, they call it, don't they, with Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman. There are fans of that type of thing. So you're making a film for those people. A film with Batman in it is going to make more money than a film that hasn't got Batman in it.
Yeah.
So and Batman is that type of character. You can have your cake and eat it. So you can have a Batman here in the Justice League doing whatever they want to do, and you can also have your Pattinson Batman over here doing the grounded stuff. So over in this universe, I don't think you're going to see Poison Ivy or Killer Croc or anything like that, because even they're a little bit more fantastical than your average villain. I mean, there's some rumors that it might be Mr. Freeze next. How they would do that, I don't know.
There's a way of doing that. I mean, if you're using technology as the emphasis, it's still a man in a suit at the end of the day.
Yeah.
However they do that,
You are not sending me to the corner.
it has to be. I mean, this is the point I was saying with Superman and the Christopher Reeve film, and it will be the same with this. Is it has to be well written. The writing has to be good enough to be able to circumnavigate those issues, and if you're just going to throw a character into something purely out of popularity, we're going to throw Batman in here because Batman's going to sell, and it's going to, he's the draw for people to go and watch this in the cinema, and he's going to be the one that's going to be selling the most merchandise and toys and things like that. That for me would then suggest that there's no substance to it. It's surface level.
Yeah.
What Matt Reeves is doing with the Batman and what Christopher Nolan did was they put layers to the character. And I guess to kind of agree with you with what you're saying about Batman is because it does, the character does have layers. You can chop some of those layers away and you can move some of that over there so it works with this. You can move some of that over there so it works with that. Whereas with Superman, you can't. I'll concede Superman's fairly one-dimensional. There's a limitation to what you can do with him. But I still firmly believe that Superman, there's no point in having Superman in a wider universe because he can just do it himself. But Batman, I'd rather not see Robert Pattinson's Batman involved with David Cronenberg's Superman and all these other characters. The way that these films are being made and presented has got a lot of humor and comedy in. I've just released a video about where I consider comedy movie. And one of the main points is that comedy is now a subgenre within like superhero films, for instance, and some action films. That comedy is now just an element within it. So you don't need comedy films on their own. But how does the comedy element with those films work with Batman when it's a very, very dark character? It should be, it doesn't work with comedy. You can have elements of comedy in a scene, but the whole thing, it's not like Guardians of the Galaxy or even the last Superman film. I just don't think Batman works with that tone.
No, that's the challenge. But I think if you're running DC, if you don't have Batman in the wider universe, it's a larger mission that is, I mean, when you're watching these Justice League cartoon films that I've watched a few of them, other comics, whatever, Batman not being there is weird. You can't. I don't think you can do that and not have Batman. Batman is a huge part of what is happening with the Justice League. So yeah, you sort of have to really. You can't have you can't have the Justice Gang and all the rest of it, and there not be Batman there. I think how they would do it with the jokes and stuff, but this is why I think, and I would completely understand why someone would say this in a boardroom, guys, look, why don't we have two Batmen? Batman over here with the Justice League does the quick bit of a joke, maybe it's a bit more light-hearted. We've got Dark Batman over here and he's facing off against the Riddler and stuff like that. And there's no reason you can't do that. I don't think it dilutes the character at all, because I think it's okay to have. Batman's one of those unique characters where he is so multifaceted that you can get away with that. They are two parts of the same character, so I'd be okay with it.
I do disagree with it. Does for me? I feel it does dilute the character, because if you've got a Batman film coming out in March and it's the darker version with Robert Pattinson, and then in July or August the same year you've got the Justice League film with a different Batman in there, one or the other is going to dilute. The first one's more likely to make them more money, and then the other one is, well, I've just seen a Batman film. Why do we need this? That would be my mindset. It was, I wouldn't want to spend my money on that other Batman film when I've just had this really good one and it's hitting all the right chords for me. But then again, I guess, I mean, I have a little argument to my own little mind here. I say little mind because I've got a tiny brain. But it might be that a lot of people don't like that darker version of Batman. They want to see a light-hearted one. So that is then it's centered around children.
You've made a really good point there, in that there are different Batman fans. You've got Batman fans like us, who I love the gritty stuff, but you have got the kids who want to play with the toys, and that there's a Batman there for them too. So we don't normally disagree. I think this might be the first time ever we've actually had a straight up disagreement.
We're both good in our own fields.
I think it's perfectly fine. Do you guys think it's okay to have two different Batmen? Do you think there should just be one and bring Patterson in? I really don't think so. Colin, I think you just want there to be one Batman, but I definitely think there could be two. So yeah, those have been our thoughts. Please do let us know. This is an interesting topic. I would really, really love to hear your thoughts, and I think it probably deserves another video in the future again. So with that said, thanks for watching. I've been Sean.
I've been Colm.
And we'll catch you next time on the Critical Cinema Club. Please like, share, subscribe. See you next time.
You wouldn't hit a guy with glasses on, would you? Huh?
Bad vibrations?